Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to review the words that I introduced to you yesterday, and you should have watched that video where I went over all of these that are called the story words. There are wordly wise lesson 3 words, and I went through one by one and gave you the definitions of those words. Today we're going to review those words, and you're going to listen to a story like we've done in class before. Let's review those words. The first word here is desert, desert. And if you look at the picture, I think our story takes place in the desert. How can I tell? Look at the sandy landscape, look at the cactuses. I would say that's definitely a dry area of land known as the desert. The next word is bend, bend. Do we see that? And we can see, I think he's a park ranger. He's bending over to talk to the kids in the car. The next word is stump, stump. The word after that is temperature, temperature. And I'm going to assume that the temperature here is pretty warm. He's wearing short sleeve, right? And we are in the desert that normally is pretty warm. Then the next word is dusk, dusk. Remember, that's the time of day when the sun is setting, it's coming down. The word after that is enormous, enormous. And we saw the picture yesterday of the big dinosaur, and we talked about enormous being the first grade word for, enormous being the first grade word for big, big. The next word we have here is decay, decay, breaking down of things, decay. Then we have volcano, and we know what that was. We showed you the volcano erupting. And then we had skeleton, skeleton, the bones inside. The last word, prehistoric. And we talked about how dinosaurs are prehistoric because they were here before man. So now we're going to listen, or you're going to listen to a story that I'm going to read to you as you look at this picture right here. And then at the end, you're going to put the story in the sequence of events in which it happened. And we've done that in class before. Let's begin reading as you look at the picture. Listen to Mrs. Aldevar. It's called A Forest in the Desert. Maggie stared out the window of the car at the flat, sandy landscape. Maggie, her 3-year-old brother, Diego, and their parents were headed to a national park in Arizona for their vacation. I can't wait to see some lizards and big turtles, said Maggie excitedly. I bet they've got some really cool ones in the desert. I have a turtle, said a little voice from beside Maggie in the back seat. That's right, Diego. Pickles is your pet turtle, said Mama. David and Caroline from the next door will go to our house to feed him while we're gone. What's the name of the place we're going, Papa? Asked Maggie. It's called Petrified Forest National Park, Papa said. But it's different from any other forest in the world. It doesn't have trees. But don't all forests have trees? Maggie asked. This forest had trees a long, long time ago. Really enormous ones. Here's the ranger station, said Papa. Let's stop and ask one of the forest rangers to tell us about it. Papa pulled up to the ranger station, and a tall man in a uniform came over to the car. Hi, I'm Ranger Pete, he said, bending down and looking into the backseat of the car. Looks like we have a couple of future junior rangers here. Ranger Pete, how can this be a forest if it has no trees? Maggie asked. That's a good question, he said. This forest used to have trees, but they died. Usually, when trees die or get knocked down, they decay. That means they rot. But not these trees. How come? Maggie asked. Well, a long, long time ago, there was a volcano here. When it blew up, the ashes covered the dead trees. Over millions of years, it turned them into stone. Let's take a walk and look at some of them, he said. Interesting. Where do you think Maggie and her family go, or where did they go on vacation? What do you think? Take a moment and think about that. Yes, they went to what's called a national park that's in the desert. I'm going to continue reading for you now the second part of the story. And I want you to look at number 2, right over here, number 2, this section here, as I read the second part of the story to you. It says, Maggie and her family got out of the car and followed the ranger. Look at the size of this stump, said Maggie. You were right, Papa. The trees must have been enormous. Lizard, said Diego. He pointed to a small lizard that scurried onto one of the tree stumps. You're right, little guy, said Ranger Pete. We call that a collared lizard because it looks like it's wearing a black collar. It looks like a little dinosaur, said Maggie. Has anyone ever found any dinosaur bones here? You bet, said the ranger. Scientists found some bones only a few months ago. They are putting the bones back together to make a whole skeleton. Wow, I'd like to see that, said Maggie. I love dinosaurs. Ranger Pete nodded. Looking at dinosaur bones tells scientists a lot about what the world was like in prehistoric times when the dinosaurs lived. Turtle, said Diego, smiling. Where? Maggie asked. Then they all saw what Diego meant. Diego was holding Pickles. Oh no, said Papa. Diego, that was naughty. Poor Pickles. It's not good for him to be here. Diego looked sad. Sorry, he sniffed. Better not let Pickles loose in the desert, said Ranger Pete. And we'd better get him some water. The sun makes the temperature here too hot for him. Papa went back to the car and found the box from the pet store where they had gotten Pickles. It had holes in it so Pickles could get air. Diego put the tiny turtle in the box. Now, it's your job to watch after him, okay? Said Papa. Okay, said Diego, cheering up. Now let's take a moment and think. Why was it important to give Pickles some water, do you think? Why might they have given Pickles, look at the picture, why might they have given him some water? Yes, because the temperature in the desert was too hot for a pet turtle. So they had to give him water. He's not meant from there. He's not from there, right? He's their pet. Very good. Now I want you to look at the picture on number 3 right here. This picture right here. Oh, I can see something happening here. One of our words. Can you guess what's happening in that picture here? What is this called when the sun's going down? Yes, that's dusk. Okay, let's continue reading as you look at that picture on number 3. It says, back at the ranger station, Ranger Pete gave Pickles a little dish of water to help him cool off. Then he handed Maggie and Diego shiny junior ranger badges to put on their shirts. He even gave them a badge for Pickles. You can put this on Pickles' dish at home. He'll be our first Turtle Junior Ranger. Maggie and her family thanked Ranger Pete, got in the car, and headed out of the park. It was almost dusk, there's the word, the time just after the sun sets. Maggie and her family looked out the windows at the many colors of the desert and sky. Wow, said Papa, look at all those colors. They are beautiful if you look at those colors. Rainbow, said Diego. It does look like a rainbow somehow, said Mama. A beautiful red, blue, lavender, pink, and orange rainbow. So now let's stop and think. What is the temperature like in the petrified forest? Do you think it was cold or hot? Yes, it's very hot, as you can tell by what they're wearing. What did Maggie see that made her understand how big the old trees must have been? You remember from the story, what did she see that made her understand how big the old trees must have been? That's right, the stump. If you look at number 2, here, look at the stump. The stump of the trees normally have rings all around it. And the bigger the tree and the more lines, the older the tree normally is. I hope you enjoyed reading the story. You will have to complete an assignment on your own. Let me go back to this one. You will have to complete an assignment on your own where you have to put in order the sequence of events that happened in the story. I have uploaded that for you to complete. I hope you guys enjoyed my story. Until next time, stay safe and please stay healthy. I miss you all.